Here we are on a new science journey here with Cyrus of Persia, and have a look at just how many mountains we have in our first turn. It's kind of crazy. Let's go look up hills or hill in the search tab. Oh my god! It's like a whole national park here of hills and whatnot. It's crazy. And we have some nice selection of jade and coffee a little further away, and same with the spices. We're gonna end up settling over here. We're gonna almost certainly find ourselves a tribal village, and then also settle on the river mouth. Maybe get ourselves an aqueduct and a commercial hub of a harbor. Have that aqueduct help support the maybe the industrial zone goes here, maybe possibly, because it's flat land and therefore doesn't take one of the hills tiles. And then we could also quite possibly make Ruhr Valley a very nice Ruhr Valley at that, given just how many mountains. Now, of course, mountains are so good for so many things. They're naturally very good. Well, hills, sorry, are so good for so many things. Naturally, they're good for production because they have a base production of 2 to 1 food, and then of course you can add mines on top of that, and then those mines can get further boosted with the Ruhr Valley. So we got ourselves a great opportunity to make a nice science game. So let's have a look at Cyrus's kit and see how well accustomed he is to science. Features and abilities: Fall of Babylon, +2 movement for the first 10 turns after declaring a surprise war on a major civilization. Well, you know me, I don't want to be doing that. Now, that might be useful for people who take advantage of wars, but for me, anything, especially science, which is so race-oriented and requires you to be first to everything, at least by the end, not something I want to be wasting time with on a war. +5 loyalty per turn in occupied cities with a garrison unit. Again, more war relevant stuff. Declaring a surprise war only counts as a formal war. Very nice for grievances, sure. For the purposes of grievances and warmongering, absolutely. But none of that is going to be something I'm going to take advantage of, because if you're at war and you're trying to do a science game, especially if there's Geneva around and you can't even gain the benefit of that, yeah, not what I'm intent on doing. Satrapies, something like that. You let me know. +1 trade route capacity when political philosophy, civic is research, presumably. That's pretty awesome. It's very early on. It's like classical era stuff. It's very basic, very quick. So you tend to get a nice buff there because it's actually substantial to have +1 trade route that early in the game. Receive +2 gold and +1 culture for routes between your own cities. That's also very nice because I do really like domestic trade routes with every win con I do. Apart from later with culture, perhaps. Roads built in your territory are 1 level more advanced than usual. That's also pretty nice. Getting that movement buff. It also makes me kind of happy to see them in a religious game when I'm playing somebody else, to have good roads that I can easily move through. Immortal, Persian unique melee unit that replaces the swordsman. Melee class unit with a ranged attack, range 2, strong defense strength. Now, I wish it would specify what it meant by strong defense strength, but it still sounds pretty cool. Again, it's very impactful early on, like classical. Does it say what era? I think that's classical, right? So yeah, like I'm sure that's very nice, and of course, a very good way of getting era score as well. But if it replaces swordsman, it might require iron, like the swordsman does. It's quite possible, but it might not. Who knows? Again, you'll have to fill me in on that one. Paradisa, which I believe is how you pronounce that, unlocks the builder ability to construct a Paradisa unique to Persia. From what exact? It doesn't specify which research I need to complete in order to access this. +1 culture and +2 gold, +1 appeal. Always nice to have that appeal. It's usually associated to culture, civ specific improvements, but it's always nice to see that, because that's a huge reason why one would want to build something like this, is to help further boost. That's why Sphinx are so good, because you can actually do it on floodplains instead of having to rely on city parks, which can't be built on floodplains and things like that. +1 culture for each adjacent holy site and theatre square. +1 gold for each adjacent commercial hub and city centre. Additional culture and tourism as you advance through the technology and civics tree. Cannot be built on snow, tundra, snow hills, or tundra hills, or adjacent to another paradisa. Since these sort of things are going to be used sparingly anyway, I always find it a little odd to have restrictions on where you can place them. Now, culturally and thematically, that may more will make a lot of sense. Persia, of course, in the Middle East, is not known for its snow or its tundra, at least. However, it's not really going to be used so often as to have adjacencies with other paradises, because quite frankly, I want to use my builders for, and builders get increasingly more expensive, charges for chops and for other things, in a science game, for projects and the Royal Society, that I really do not want to be just throwing out paradises all over the place. And that's the same for a lot of these improvements. So it always strikes me a bit odd that they feel the need to do that from a gameplay standpoint. But anyway, even though he's got a lot of nice stuff, not really science focused, much more war and culture focused than science. So we'll have to see how much we can make use of in this particular game. Early game here, and as you can see, we've mapped out our first city. As I was saying, we would like to be able to use our Ruhr Valley on the free, sort of like flat tile. What's nice about these jades is that Ruhr Valley cares about mines, and even if this or this are not hill tiles, they will still allow me to make mines on them since they have jade, and therefore the jade is allowing the boost on the Ruhr Valley as well for these two tiles, in addition to all the other hill tiles we saw earlier. Of course, this side, the mountain, will help buff the campus. It won't be the greatest campus in the world, but it'll be part of the bigger triangle. It will gain adjacency for that, as well as the mountain. It looks like a really nice setup to start with, and we're about to pick up our tribal village. And look at that! We got ourselves a relic! I should have done a prediction. I don't know. Ark of the Covenant, eh? That's nice, isn't it? This is looking like a real strong game. We already found Singing the Praises of Tsinging. And Hong Kong, which will be very useful later on for all those projects that we want accelerated. So, looking real good so far. Well then, in true Middle Eastern fashion, we found our neighbors, and they are indeed Saladin of Arabia. It's almost thematic and fitting that would be the case. We found ourselves Anshan as well. So that's already, along with Hattusa, 2 science civs. So it would be nice to get Kilwa Kisawani if we can. But yeah, they're going to be holding us off from the east. So hopefully we can get a city down here, maybe make a nice 4 adjacency campus. There's an awful lot of mountains to potentially decorate with campuses and such along this fault line, and that could often also lend to be our kind of like border between them, so we don't get encroached any further by the oncoming neighbor of ours. Like I say, we've built 3 cities. We are looking to make more of them. We have a 4th settler going over here to try and take some more of this land before it gets gobbled up, and hopefully we can seal our own part of the map. So, early mid-game right now, and we are still treading water over our Dark Ages. We have 10 points to accrue in the next 10 turns in order to do that yet again. We've established a number of cities now, a lot of them coastal, and a lot of them are getting harbors, and hopefully going to be able to be much stronger going forward. Perhaps we should even look to get veterancy to try and improve that situation. But what I want to draw our attention to is, look at all this land to the west. Woohoo! So much land! And that's what you want in the science game, because you need a lot of cities to win a science game. Well, you don't need them, but it certainly benefits. I think it's more beneficial to get more cities in science games than other types of win cons. Let's put it that way. Although, the more cities in the culture game, the more theater squares, the more great works you can hold. You can do that with wonders, and you have other ways to do that. Whereas you know, having more spaceports at the end of the game, having more industrial zones, allow you to really churn out the final steps of a science race. So, let's see our settlers tab. You can see that most of the land is going to be still around with us, even after all of the coastal erosion. And as long as we can make the most of it, we should have a good game on our hands. 100 turns have passed, and you can now see that we have indeed taken full advantage of all this lovely land and put 3 cities to make our science economy better, as well as hopefully our production going forward into the science races. We are on the verge of completing all of these campuses, and hopefully with that, substantially boost our efforts towards getting towards the end of this race. We've also met everybody. We only have Nubia left to be able to befriend. How is our standing with her? We could probably do quite a bit if we increase this to 10 and we added a little bit of trade routes. It's only a minus 15 at the moment. Also, it would be nice to be able to get that, but of course she's not going to accept yet. And then, of course, as long as we keep building districts, she's going to be happy with us anyway, since that is how you satisfy her agenda. The one thing that isn't so great is how our religion has been utterly decimated. We have very little left with these 2 apostles and this third one down here. But I do think that if we stave off the storm from Arabia, indeed, and we are likely to be able to take it back by the end. Whether it will be too late, we'll have to see. The production is most important at the end of the game, so it may still come in handy before the end. This turn, arguably the most important turn in the whole game, marks a significant point in the progress of our attainment for scientific victory. There are 2 big reasons why. One is we finally have access to promote to communism, which of course will allow us to have more production per citizens of cities of governors in them, as well as plus 10% science, which when we don't have Geneva is the next best thing we can get. So we get some era score for that. We can put this back up to here. You know, what do we put in for all these military things? We could potentially put in veterancy, but I think that we've kind of built every harbor, well, maybe not every shipyard, for each of our cities. This is amazing. This is one of the best specialist communist only policy cards you can get, given it gives you plus 3 production and plus 4 whopping food from domestic trade routes, which in a science game you want to be doing anyway. And then, I don't know, plus 1 production could even be a choice. But perhaps it should be this. Campus adjacency is still important. We only have 200, which is really not that much at this point in the game. Kind of want to be heading to 400 around this sort of time. Maybe we'll be able to get there with the help of research labs and so on. But yeah, that's the first part. And then the second part is, of course, we finally get our Ruhr Valley! Woohoo! We're gonna need to build those mines still. We have a builder in the process, 1 charge remaining. We're gonna need more builders for that, but we'll be able to build them after we build the most important part, which is the Ruhr Valley. We do have some mines. We definitely have some, and this exposed iron a long time ago, so we were able to make use of that. But yeah, let's see it in full display, shall we?
The industrial heart of Germany practically stopped beating. Hardly anyone worked. Hardly anything ran. The population of the Ruhr area had to be supported by the rest of the country.
Well, that's commitment, isn't it? A big sacrifice for a big gain, and that gain is to get ourselves Ruhr Valley, plus 20% production in this city, and plus 1 production for each mine and quarry even in this city. Must be built along a river adjacent to an industrial zone district with a factory, which is what we did and what we achieved. Yay! One of the best wonders to get in any science game. Very happy about it. So, mid to late game here, and everything's coming together, to be honest with you. We have everything going in the right direction. We've just completed our science of rocketry. Our research is done. We can now start building spaceports. We have spies, and they're working beautifully. Our master spy has stolen advanced ballistics, and we'll be able to travel through more of this tree as we see that we have acquired many different boosts already. So that's already looking very nice indeed. We can see that we have 2 different spies working very well. Our city growth. We have not just stuck at our continent. We have moved across. We have built all manner of cities on other continents. Indeed, we have. Even this one, which is being invaded by a stupid infantryman. But whatever. We are doing absolutely grand. It is a fantastic science game to boot. And our science is almost 400. And the big reason for that, of course, is we finally found Geneva. And we got Amani in there, and we soothed Geneva, and we have so many, an absolute plethora of science city-states to choose from. We have Hattusa currently. I don't think we got Kilwa Kisawani, but if we did, we would be rolling. We would be absolutely laughing to the bank. We have a great game going on. A mere 162 turns into the game for a science race. That is incredibly fast. It's one of my fastest ones, at least for me. And we are already in the final stage of making this mission to Mars happen. We have established our final project, and to accelerate that, we are going to build a whole bunch of laser stations. All of them going to be terrestrial, as we do not have any aluminium. And yeah, we could buy some, but I don't care. We're fine. Everybody is going to be finishing in around 5 turns anyway. That's not going to be kind. But this one, and this one, and this, and this, and this. And yes, we did indeed take Caguana with Stanford Ruffles, by the way. As we like to do in any successful game. But yeah, look at all of it. 5 turns, and then they all happen. We're already 8 turns into it. It's going to be very shortly afterwards when we meet again. And sure enough, no more than 6 turns later, on turn 168, you can see that we are traveling at a whopping 13 light years per turn. About to win this game, only requiring 5 more for victory. You know, this game has gone pretty much as perfectly as one could ask for, which is why, relatively speaking, it's been a little bit faster. I still find getting science any earlier than turn 168 very, very difficult, at least without using some sort of cheese prep setup strat that might, you know, use Montezuma maybe or something like that. I'm very happy with the way this game went. The religious aspect was arguably the only thing that went wrong, but that's a relatively secondary concern. So let's see the final turns in action.
Much as our ancestors did ages ago, we thrust forward into the unknown. The first pioneers set forth on an uneasy course. And yet once again did our people thrive. Now, under your leadership, we plot a new course and make another world our own.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this adventure today, If you did, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, maybe leave a comment below, tell me what you want to look at and see more of later, and I'll see you there.